For over 30 years, one organization has been on the front lines, teaching students, parents, and even police how to navigate the dangers of the digital world.
In schools is young people who come into school with already a digital history. They may have social media accounts. They probably have a personal email account, and they'll use their school-administered email address to do that. Now, the problem is, when that student now graduates, I can't log into my email because I signed up for a game using an email I no longer control. We've seen issues around data breaches. And then we get to human mistakes of obviously reusing that same password. That is how a young person's innocent online gaming activities today could impact their financial situation when they're older and a working adult.
Brandan, for those who haven't come across your work, in your own words, who are you and what is the core mission that drives you as the CEO of the White Hatter every single day?
My background is in education, one as an academic. My background also in a regular tech nerd, learning how computers work, how they break apart. And ever since, honestly, middle school for me, when I was a young person, learning about the challenges of the internet, how coding works, what were the vulnerabilities, which really came to be what we do here today, which is ultimately helping young people and their parents and families avoid issues and really empower them to have better online experiences.
What is it specifically that the White Hatters do on the day-to-day basis?
It depends on the day. So if it is a school day, which classes are in session, my day can look like I will do a live broadcast into a classroom in the morning. I'll do a live broadcast in the afternoon to a different school or maybe a different age group in that same school. And then in the evenings, I'll do a broadcast into the homes for the parents and caregivers to help the families just better use technology in a safer, more secure way.
It's a big thing, isn't it? The technology is such a great tool that developed over time. It helps us in our lives in so many good ways, but it can also be misused, misunderstood. And if we don't know that, and especially our young users who just want to be on that network because every one of their friends are on that network, that can definitely bite us in the backside, can't it?
Oh, indeed. Technology just amplifies whatever we put into it. It's a tool, and tools amplify our human abilities. Cars amplify our ability to be mobile. Well, technology also amplifies our ability to talk and share, but with that can come aggression, can come extortion. So I like to see it where young people really get out of the internet what they put into it. The more goodwill, the more good work they put in, from what I see in my experience working with those young people, they're more likely to get positive experiences in return. But of course, anything can happen. Anything could pop up. So making sure that they are best prepared to deal with those, whatever that might be.
I guess the big thing there is that it follows them everywhere. And that's the biggest change from our generation, in that anything happened at school, it was at school. Your friends didn't go home and call 16 of their friends at night to say, oh, did you see what Brandan did today? It just didn't happen. If you were at sports, it happened at sports. Now it's following all of us, for that matter. We're focusing on kids today, but it's following us everywhere. It's in our homes, and kids are using it in their bedrooms and bathroom and wherever else. So I think that's what the amplification part is that you're talking about, that really can, as you said, can be the best thing or can be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's the permanence. And if you want to use generation prior to what we have today, the millennial generation, Gen X, the boomer generation, if we're looking at that, I can recall party line over landlines, where young people would share rumors in a party line in a group chat, in basically an old school version of group chat that we have today, except in the party lines, really easy ways to record what was being said. Today, the same conversations happen as did with party lines. It's just now it's easily more trackable, which can come back and impact students in their future.
So you've said today's youth are essentially born with digital identity. How does this fundamentally change the nature of growing up, and why is it so crucial to build their security foundations when their digital habits are still malleable?
Really, the first generation, if you're looking at Gen Alpha, which are the students going into elementary school now, essentially, they are really the ones that they will know the world of smartphones from the age they can comprehend that. When you're looking at generations like Gen Z, would agree, I think smartphones and had significant changes in the technology through their youth. I haven't seen a whole lot of changes in smartphone technology, that mobile technology, for quite a long time now. I wonder if we're sort of plateauing. I guess we're now moving into the AI wearable technology era pretty soon, but it's not coming as fast as I would have thought it would, but I think we're heading there. So when you're looking at the millennial generation or Gen X, those students back in the day, they got technology and access to the internet generally when they were in their teenage years. And the technology was much simpler. Back then, I can recall when people would learn how to use HTML code to basically alter their profile pictures or their profile names in like MySpace, how you could customize that. If you knew a hex code, you could change the colors on your profile. And back then, it was very rudimentary in that people would learn how to defragment their hard drives and all that stuff. And nowadays, a lot of those tools are automated. You don't have to do a whole lot of upkeep with your device as you used to, where, again, you would defragment your hard drive to make sure all the data was stored properly. But now it's flash memory. It's quick, it's easy, it's fast, it's simple. And so the fundamental knowledge on just how technology works is not there as it used to be. So when it comes to young people who were years prior, generations before ours, millennials, Gen X, etc., they generally had to learn online safety and security in the moment as they were using it. Something would come up, something new would happen. There would be a new security innovation, like, for example, when security certificates on websites became a thing, when all websites became HTTPS for secure. Before that, that wasn't really a thing. So the entire generation had to learn, okay, what is a safe website address? What is an unsafe address? Well, now by default, security certificates are free when you pay for a domain. So that knowledge doesn't exactly exist anymore with young people because by default, everything is generally secured in terms of your encryption between you and the websites that you're visiting. So having to navigate that and kind of having to teach young people in today's world what all that means is very interesting. And what I see a lot working in schools is young people who come into school with already a digital history. They may have social media accounts. They probably have a personal email account. They probably have one or many different gaming accounts. And the thing is, what I'm seeing with young people is their account management strategies are not always optimal. I've seen cases where students will sign up for a social network or they'll sign up to play a game and they'll use their school administered email address to do that. Now, obviously the problem is when that student now graduates from grade 12 from high school, and that email address is usually going to be discontinued. So if you have to change your password, if you have a security issue, you have to verify your identity and you get that, oh, we sent you an email to confirm your password change. Oh, well, I can't log into my email because I signed up for a game using an email I no longer control. So kind of helping young people avoid those mistakes as well is a big part of what I do now in elementary school specifically. so that when they get to high school, they have all the security foundations covered. And now I can talk more about the social, cultural, and even legal aspects when it comes to engaging on the internet.
You're right. I remember even dealing with that, with the original Hotmail account. I'm old enough to say I was one of the first people here to get a Hotmail account in the late 90s. Your work has shown that old legacy accounts, like what we've spoken about, or even now what kids, teenagers created when they were young, as you mentioned, often become a primary vulnerability later for them in their professional life. Can you share an example of how this digital baggage from our youth can come back and haunt us in our adult lives?
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, because we've been teaching in schools now since about 2008 is really our first we ever did on these subjects. Funny enough, some of the things we taught in 2008 are the same things we teach teens today in 2025. Oh, how things change and sometimes how they don't. But what I can say is we have seen teens who maybe they sign up for a lot of different accounts. That's one challenge. And the more accounts you sign up for, you're hoping that the administrators, that the servers, the IT infrastructure behind all those servers and accounts are good, secure, they're properly hashed passwords. But we've seen issues around data breaches where someone, a kid, signed up for a really small, not really important game that maybe didn't have the best security infrastructure. They had passwords in plain text, or they used a really bad encryption protocol. We've seen cases like that. And then we get into human mistakes of obviously reusing that same password. Now, if they have that bad habit into their professional career and they use the same password as they did for their rando hacked game, in their youth, well, of course, someone's going to try that same password and, people will use the same password for years or decades on many different accounts. So that is how a young person's innocent online gaming activities today could impact their financial situation when they're older and a working adult.
Definitely the password reuse is something that's over time has continued and I think will continue until your enlightened children that you're teaching in elementary school come across.
Oh, I can hope. I guess we have a future of, the passwordless system. Yeah, or like I think Medium, the blogging software website, you don't have a password. It's just, I think Slack as well. You don't really have a password. They will send you an email verification link, a cookie to your session, and that's how they verify it. But obviously, we know that there's session hijacking. So session hijacking, more or less of a risk than, say, a fake login site, right? So you're looking at that cost analysis in terms of what's more likely. Are you more likely to get session hijacked, or are you more likely to click on a phishing link and put your email and password in the wrong box? I think that's probably more likely.
Understood that, 100% see that happening. Your guiding philosophy, which I love, by the way, is enlighten, not frighten. In a media landscape where this often relies on fear to capture attention because it's built into us, human nature, why did you deliberately choose this path of empowerment over fear, and why is it more effective with young people?
I think it's just more appropriate. I think it's more realistic. I also think it's just more correct. We've talked as a team countless of times if we should become more fear-based, because we're seeing advocates for no technology. We're seeing advocates for technology. We're seeing on both sides of the argument that a lot of people are using fear-based tactics or using very small, minuscule, random examples as the key focus for their claims, using situations that would not normally happen in everyday life. And, we view technology like anywhere else in the world. There are good places, there are bad places, and there are just some basic things we should do to ensure we have a good experience. And, every time we present, we talk to young people, students, we always make an effort to really highlight the good things that young people are doing. Highlight the creative projects, the world-changing projects, the initiatives that they're doing that ultimately are making the world just a better place for everyone. And I think it is a disservice to not acknowledge that. And, so we want to uplift them to make better choices. And part of the way by doing that is showcasing and giving them the path to do those really cool things. If we just talk about the negatives, we're not showing them the path to follow instead.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely the way to approach it. I mean, I do take, depending on the environment that you're dealing with, either or approach. But yeah, you're right. Like you don't even realize, I think sometimes when you're doing these things, that you're pushing fear more than you're, as you said, leading them with the path that leads into learning. And we want to do this rather than, oh crap, I better do this, otherwise this is going to happen approach. So I do love that. And you guys have spoken to well over, I'm going to say 700,000 plus students over the years that you guys have been doing what you do. What is the most common and perhaps surprising misconception that young people have about their privacy and permanence online?
Misconception is the thought that it won't happen to me. That's one of the big ones. We also see that with parents too, and they think, oh, that won't happen with my child. Those mentalities. And mathematically, statistically, most young people are probably not going to have a really significant, dangerous event on the internet. Most young people are doing pretty cool things. Most of them are having a pretty good time. But there are bad actors out there. And unfortunately, there will be some good kids, some good teens who will be approached by a predator, by a creep, by a hacker, scammer, fraudster, whoever that might be. There are bad actors out there. So yes, there is a bit of herd mentality where, yes, there's a lot more good than bad, but bad can still pop up. So while I don't want to fearmonger and say bad things are going to happen to you, you could be someone, you could use the same password on every account, you could have no security, and you honestly might not have any problems on the internet. That is a possibility. However, from what I've heard, from what I've seen in my academic background, where I actually interviewed hackers and scammers, they go for the lowest hanging fruit. If you have any kind of block or protection or security in place, most of the time they're going to bypass you and go to a target who will engage with them. So it's about implementing the basic level of security just so we have that baseline approach.
Looking at the global policy landscape, you've spoken with Susan McLean from Australia, so you're aware of the changes to the laws that were passed here about banning social media for kids under 16. I guess from your perspective, what are the potential benefits of the government taking such a hardline stance, and what are the unintended consequences we should be concerned about?
If I want to use an analogy, and I view it like automobiles, cars, traffic laws, traffic safety standards, obviously those are government run, government enforced. And that's really important. But I do think one of the challenges, because those government laws around traffic safety ultimately do have an objective benefit to society. I mean, you can imagine people speeding through school zones. There's a reason why we have speed limits in school zones. And again, that's the government making a large policy approach for safety, security, and protection. The challenge is when those laws and regulations begin to impact social engagements. That's when things get super messy, because you have cultural differences, you have language differences, and then you have subversive languages that can be strategically used to kind of bypass language that might be illegal. it's very difficult for the government, if you will, to really manage social interaction when things are very subjective. So yes, in regards to social media bans, the ultimate question is going to be, how do you classify social media, right? What are the limits? Who's the arbiter of that? And is that person in charge of saying this social network or that social network is now under our purview of the law? Okay, what about all the others? What about social networks that don't have servers, a business license, or staff in your country? I mean, we're literally seeing that with Europe and 4chan and such, who are literally saying, hey, we're not bound by your age verification laws because we're an American organization. We have no presence in your country, so you can't do anything. And the question is that going to lead businesses? It will be interesting to see how that court case unfolds. But the question is that going to lead businesses to move their online operations offshore that may no longer be, subject to the laws of those countries? Or as a tech nerd myself, and I've written about this in the past, someone who does play video games, someone who has played the Cyberpunk 2077 game, there's an interesting concept. Mike Pondsmith, the author of that genre or of that sort of world, his perspective was the public internet was too dangerous, a lot of reasons why, so that every city, every country essentially has its own separate independent internet. And are we heading down that path? Maybe not intentionally. I don't think NATO-friendly countries are intending to secede themselves from the internet. But if all these different countries have all these different laws now about what can and cannot happen on their public internet, does that effectively mean we have to have firewalls around each country? It's a question I think that we need to debate. And it really comes down to, how do you interpret what is a social network?
Yeah. When you got Roblox, when you've got other apps like that where they've got a chat environment that goes to other technologies, Telegram, Signal, anything else for that, WhatsApp for that matter, chatting outside that environment, then all of a sudden you've bypassed all of it anyway. And I think, as you suggested, I'd love to believe that with businesses like the White Hatters and many others like Susan McLean here in Australia and a few others that you guys have had on your show, that being educated to understand that and take the right approach means that the laws or no laws, you as a child, as a teenager, will understand that, hold on, I'm not going to go into a private chat outside this environment because I don't know who you are, and therefore that danger, whether the law's there or not, is averted. And because how do you target a company who, let's be realistic, these businesses out there are there for profit, and their profit will always come first. We've seen it recently with Meta, with the leaked report saying that they will allow their AIs to be talking sexually to children, and that's acceptable to them. But the point is that if a child knows that's not right and they've been educated, then you would hope at that point that would in fact be something that they don't fall for.
Yeah, that's all fair and reasonable. And it's also about educating the policymakers. I always get a chuckle at the debates in legislature or parliament or whatever country's legal framework and buildings they have to debate all this stuff, and how whenever there's like question period or debate period on these people who are proposing these laws, and they're presented questions like, well, okay, you're banning social media because this app has this feature, but you're excluding communication apps. But WhatsApp has social media features, but yet it's somehow exempt from these laws because it's primarily like apps like WhatsApp. You can do map pins, like you can do a social media. And then the question is going to be, when it comes to things like blockchain Well, don't discredit humans and their level of spite. If you block something, you take something away, there will be those who will work tirelessly to work out a solution to bypass whatever law or regulation that you put in place because of how you've labeled it, because of how you've worded it. And again, if you can track it, maybe you can regulate it. But if you can't track it, yeah, right? These are real challenges. I think these lawmakers really need to be cautious about. Well, yes, social media has its challenges in regards to safety and exploitation. At least all the big social networks, they do, for the most part, do work with law enforcement. They do respect court orders. They do respect warrants. And so it's kind of, sometimes it might be the lesser of two evils. If you begin to block social media and a young person is looking for that connection, where are they going to go? And does that other source, is it going to be better for them? Or is it going to be worse for them? At least with most social networks that are multinational, that have government infrastructure and have a business infrastructure, those are more easily controllable.